A lot has been written and said about internet scams. But what about when you purchase something on the internet and you get what you purchase, but it may not do exactly what you think it was supposed to do? Although not exactly illegal, some technical aspects when purchasing some things on the internet could be described as a scam. So what's a scam? An internet definition of a scam is a dishonest scheme, a fraud. And what's the definition of a fraud? Wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial or personal gain. And notice the definition of a scam was a dishonest scheme, a fraud. So dishonest means that you're not telling the truth. Okay, my experience of all this. Quite some time ago, after satisfactorily purchasing a number of items on the internet, I ordered and received some rechargeable AA batteries because they were substantially cheaper and had a higher stated capacity than what I previously purchased from shops. When they arrived, the first thing I noticed was how their weight was a lot less than the ones I already had. Secondly, they charged very quickly. Then, when I used them, I discovered they went flat extremely quickly. Although they were rechargeable AA batteries, they obviously were not the rating that they were advertised on the internet, and definitely not what was written on them. As I had purchased them from an overseas website, Australian laws did not apply. I will talk more about Australian laws later. So, as what had happened to me is not illegal, had I been scammed? 3 terabyte USB drive. Some time ago, 3 terabyte USB drives were being advertised on the internet for $20. Actually, I've just looked and discovered that a 2 terabyte USB drives are still being advertised by a major internet seller for $8.60. I was a bit suspicious of buying one, but I know other tech-savvy people that did buy them, and they did show a capacity as advertised. That was, in this case, 3 terabyte. You could even keep copying data to them up to the advertised storage capacity. I assume, as I never found out anyone that was able to fill one. Considering hard drives of such capacity would cost more than USB pen drives, it's all sounded very suspicious. As they say, too good to be true. It turned out that these drives only had a very limited capacity, but something was done to them such that they showed a much higher capacity. Basically, they just kept on overriding the same part of the storage. For those that bought them, they only found out when they tried to retrieve the data at some later stage. The data they had saved just wasn't there. In this case, the devices did exactly as they were advertised. It could be assumed that if you bought something that had a certain storage capacity, you would imagine you'd be able to retrieve that amount of capacity at some stage in the future. So, was this a scam, considering no dishonesty had taken place? Caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. There is this Latin phrase, caveat emptor, which translated means let the buyer beware. And according to Wikipedia, and I quote, the phrase caveat emptor and its use as a disclaimer of warranties arises from the fact that buyers typically have less information than the seller about the goods or services they are purchasing. This quality of the situation is known as information asymmetry. Defects in goods and services may be hidden from the buyer and only known to the seller. Up until some countries created consumer protection laws, the concept of caveat emptor persisted. Where consumer laws do exist, they are a warranty as to the reliability of the product or service. Of course, consumer laws only exist in the countries that you reside in. If via the internet you buy products from another country, those consumer laws may not apply. If you are aware of caveat emptor, buyer beware, and you buy from overseas, in the previous examples I've mentioned, have you been scammed? Further examples: car fuel consumption. I've seen a number of internet advertisements showing photos of strange things being poured into the petrol inlet of cars. obviously to create some sort of curiosity. Well, that curiosity worked, so I went and had a look at what it was all about. Some devices that you could plug into your car that, according to the website, dramatically reduced your fuel consumption. Being very suspicious, I googled the name of the product. Turns out it's a device that plugs into where mechanics normally check to see if there is a fault in your car. A YouTube video shows a breakdown of the device, and that all it actually did was a small LED globe. It did nothing else, and definitely did not affect the car's fuel consumption. So, is that a scam? Electricity consumption. Another internet ad attracting my attention was showing someone spraying WD-40 into an electrical power outlet. This led to a website that proclaims that plugging in a particular device into a power point would dramatically reduce your electricity bill. Again, the device did not do that. Another one, yet again, is military-grade drone for about $100. This one showed a very professional-looking video of a drone supposedly used by the military. That actually the drone was a DJI drone. DJI is a major drone manufacturer that normally cost over $1,000. That could do all these fantastic things. Well, the ad said it could do all these fantastic things. This is the $100 one. Those that investigated it discovered on receiving such a drone that it did not do any of the advertised things, and in some cases did not even fly. Australian consumer law. If you purchase some things in Australia, whether from a store or an Australian website, you are protected by consumer law as administered by the ACCC, Australian Competition and Consumer Corporation. However, information asymmetry, the fact that sellers have more information than buyers, as in caveat emptor, which I talked about earlier, also applies to Australian consumer law. Sellers often refer to manufacturers' warranties that have various limitations, restrictions and time constraints when a consumer has a problem with what they have purchased. Often these consumers accept what the seller tells them without knowing what legal rights they have. Is this a scam? Typically, the seller will say the product warranty has expired when the consumer right does not specifically have an expiry period. My experience. When I have bought items via the internet from Australian businesses, I've been able to have items repaired, replaced, and have received refunds outside the warranty period when they were faulty. That's the goods that were faulty. That is, they were not fit for purpose. However, in most cases, I was initially hit with the excuse that the product was outside of warranty. It was only when I referred to my statutory consumer rights that I got what the legislation allowed. It would seem that there is a concerted effort on behalf of sellers to make sure consumers are not aware of their rights. Sometimes when you hit a brick wall, when you have such an issue with a seller, it sometimes helps to say that you will be reporting them to the ACCC. However, the reality is that the ACCC cannot force businesses to comply with consumer legislation. The ACCC can only take court action that, if successful, could result in the seller being fined. That doesn't necessarily help you. The ACCC has done so in the past, that's fined people, against some of Australia's largest corporations, only to have some of those same corporations repeat what they did. So, is this a scam?